I'm Triantafyllos Karatrantos, and I would like to welcome you to this very interesting panel. Actually, I will be in a very, very easy position, since I have 4 very distinguished and experienced speakers on a very important and sexy topic, because we are discussing about cybersecurity, cyber defense, emerging technologies, AI, in numerous different ways and opportunities, covering from pure security issues, but also the issues related with investment, with the role of the private sector. So I will not spend and I will not take any time from our speakers, and I will turn to them with us in this very interesting discussion that you will hopefully also find interesting, are Mr. Richard Meeus, which is the Director of Security Technology and Strategy in Akamai Atcom, Mr. Yiannis Pavlosoglou, the Vice Governor of National Cybersecurity Authority of Greece, Mrs. Marina Theodotou, Executive Director, Center for Frontier AI Security, and Mr. Federico Menna, Chief Executive Officer from 28 Digital. So as you can see, we have people covering both the private sector and providers of security, also people from the national public ecosystem, which is also very important, and also from the new trends covering what is happening next. So our panel is actually guiding our discussion. So we have three actually important pillars: the threats, the defense, and the evolution of the new trends. And I will start, and I will start with the current situation, and I will ask for short interventions from our speakers about the threat environment. And I will start, since we are in Greece, here in Delphi, with Yiannis Pavlosoglou from the National Cybersecurity Agency. Yiannis, the floor is yours for a short intervention about the current cybersecurity threat landscape.
Thank you, Aki. So, the simple word to describe the threat environment when it comes to cyber in 2026 is VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This is not for those of you that have attended leadership trainings as part of your MBA or similar to remember those years, but it's the fact that is driving the change in and around how important cyber has become as a topic, and it's no longer a technical term, only a technical term. Examples. The average time when it comes to breach, to exfiltration of data in January is down to 8 hours. This used to be in the number of days. If we look at the geopolitical events of any big global affair, they are tied in with cyber-related activities. And of course, cyber is something that at a personal level, with AI, is now becoming a much broader topic in the context of using large language models all the way to Skynet scenarios. So if that's not volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, I don't know what is. And just to leave that with a sense of hope at the end, it's not all doom and gloom. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and there's not a train coming our way. In Southeast Europe, we have been dealing with volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situations for quite a long time. So I think Greece has a big part to play in how you deal with that cyber threat landscape. Back to you, Aki.
Thank you very much, Yiannis, for, first of all, keeping the time short and for connecting the different dots to describe this volatile world and volatile situation and the different layers that we are discussing and we are facing and we are investing in cybersecurity. And I will turn now to Richard in order to highlight also this ecosystem of cooperation between public authorities and providers working in the field of cybersecurity. So Richard, your perception about the threat landscape and the most important threats in the field of cyber war.
So at the moment, cyber threats, we see a lot of new talks in the press and the previous discussion, 2 previous discussions, there was a lot of talk about mythos and about all of the new, the challenges that that's going to create. But a lot of the vulnerabilities come down to classic things that we've known for many years, things like distributed denial of service. That's been going up, especially in Europe, due to the unfortunate circumstance of having many wars in the region for the last few years. We've seen an increase in web application attacks. We've seen an massive increase in API-based attacks. And the concern around API attacks is because every single AI endpoint that we're creating is an API. And so that we're creating APIs at a massive rate at the moment. And we are not affording the same level of control and security as we would do to a normal web application. So this is sort of a big untapped area where the attackers realize that there is prime opportunity for exposure. And the amount of APIs that we see out there at the moment that are unauthenticated, that can be abused, is really, really high. There was one situation where a large consultancy firm was a company called CodeWall, did a security analysis of them. And they just pointed their automated security tool at their domain. They found thousands of publicly documented APIs all over their estate. They found 22 that were unauthenticated. Within 2 hours, the automated tool had read-write access to their production database. So we focus a lot of attention on the web apps, not enough on the APIs. So I think there needs to be an increased focus, especially with the rush to deliver effective AI in the forms of chatbots or in other forms. We need to understand that at the end of every single AI tool is an API endpoint that needs to be secured and protected.
Thank you very much, Richard. And also, your comments about APIs reminds me of the very important discussion about state and non-state malicious actors that are conducting cyber threats. So it's a very big and interesting discussion. And I will turn now to Federico about his comments on this first round about the cyber threats.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I would like to build on what Richard just said, because when you look at cybersecurity, if I'm not mistaken, there are 2,200 meaningful attacks globally on cybersecurity attacks, which means a meaningful attack every 39 seconds. So while I'm speaking, already a couple of them happen. And when I say meaningful, I mean attacks that are either causing a serious problem to a company, a government, or an individual, or that require significant resources to counter attack and to defend. And this happens at all levels. It's not only about at the application level, but we need more and more to protect the algorithm, the APIs, as Richard was just saying. And what I like to say, I like to work on a protect and build principle, meaning that on the one end, we have to protect, and with the spreading of AI, LLMs, and generative AI in general, we need more and more to protect the models and the layers, because otherwise what comes out is already affected by the attacks. But that's not enough. We also need to work on the build side. The build side means working on the skills, working on the startups that have innovative technologies that can help us being at the forefront, because that's the only way we can be proactive as opposed as reactive. And well, maybe we will discuss that a bit later, but this is where we have to grow as Europeans, I have to say, because currently we see that on the protect side, we don't do enough. We are always lagging behind the attackers, in a way, in the use of technology against cyber threats. So these are my two cents, and happy to elaborate more later.
Thank you very much, Federico, for also preparing the ground for the next round of discussion about protection and defense. And I will turn now to Marina. When we're discussing a bit about AI, I think that she's the most experienced in terms of describing us how dynamic is the concept of cybersecurity, because we're discussing a lot of years about cybersecurity, but yesterday's cybersecurity is not the same like today. So Marina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Akis, and thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at this beautiful and historic place. So absolutely. So when it comes to AI and defense and national security, everything that my colleagues here discussed gets magnified by a significant amount, because think about frontier models that can be compromised in a national security or contested environment. So 3 things I'd like to highlight here. Number 1, AI gives us decision advantage. So what does that mean? It means that the party that can access and analyze and distill the information fastest actually wins in theater. And so this means, and I'll add another acronym for you, the OODA loop, or Observe, Orient, Decide, Act, is critical here. So AI allows us to speed up our OODA loops. So speed or decision advantage are critical. The second element that I want to highlight is where most organizations and most leaders, including in defense, right now are making a mistake, which is only focusing on the risk that AI brings and not the readiness. So we have to look at both risk. What is the risk that the AI brings, and also the readiness? Are we able to manage that risk? So when we talk about readiness, we focus on 5 key elements: people, of course, and foremost, process, technology, data, and governance. So looking at AI risk and readiness gives us the advantage. The third element that I want to highlight is interoperability. We need to become interoperable. What does that mean? It means that European countries or Western allies need to actually deploy AI and make sure that their systems, people, processes, technologies, and governance all connect. So countries can be making AI decisions together. If you're making AI decisions by yourself, currently in the European context, that's not a good idea. So you really want to focus on decision advantage, your OODA loop, and also interoperability. And I'll be happy to discuss a little bit more. Over back to you, Akis.
Thank you. Thank you, Marina. I cannot insist to the temptation to highlight that you're absolutely right about the need to find this common ground for AI. But currently, we are facing this very conflicting geopolitical rivalry about AI and emerging technologies. So that describes the way that we're traveling from the state center level to our personal readiness level. And I will turn now to the second round of our discussion about defense protection, because I believe that if we have time for a small exercise, I'm not pretty sure that we are all in a very advanced personal readiness level for our personal cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is not only about states or big enterprises or even organizations, but it's also about individuals. And I will turn now to Richard to discuss about how we can defend ourselves, our infrastructures, so the needs there.
Thank you, Akis. I think with the advent of AI, we are sometimes slightly distracted by the magic, and everybody thinks that we need to be thinking of creative new ways to protect ourselves against this new threat. But realistically, the threats that we're seeing are still the same ones that we've seen before. Yes, we've seen that we can find vulnerabilities quicker, but they're not vulnerabilities that could have been found that couldn't have been found by a human being, just with more time. So what AI is doing is it's creating a faster ability for the attackers to come in. It's also creating a faster ability for the defenders to put in tooling in place. So we need to focus on the core aspects. We just need to do them more effectively, more efficiently. And this means leveraging AI as well internally. It's being understanding what the assets we have in our organization. It goes down to a lot of things like basic cyber hygiene. Do you know all the assets that you have in your organization? I'll venture that most organizations don't have a clear inventory, certainly not one that's dynamic, so they can understand every single workload you have, every single application you have, every single asset you have, how it's communicating and what it's doing. Because once you understand that and you have that visibility, you can then start putting policies in place that allow you to control that. So when the attackers do get more tooled up, we're going to be in a better place to put the controls in place. Because we're already saying we're trying to get to our zero trust sort of zenith. of having positive security models, applications where you know exactly what's going to be discussed with another application, what port, what protocol, what are the access controls around that. Once you can reduce that blast radius, it's massively more effective. This allows you to protect your crown jewels, as you would say. Not the French crown jewels, obviously. The English crown jewels are a lot more better protected. But you want to get to that level of understanding where the core assets are and understanding the controls you can put in place. And there is another aspect that we need to think of as we begin to speed up our protection. And that's around things like virtual patching. The reason I say that is because the attack tools and the discovery tools that we're going to get are going to discover lots more vulnerabilities at a faster rate. And for the teams in our organizations, that means they have to do more patching. And that's at a rate that they may not be able to do naturally. The machines might not be able to be switched off, to be turned off, to be able to have the patches done. So what we want to be able to do is put patching, stop that vulnerability being compromised. And we can do that virtually, either through tools in the cloud or through things like segmentation tooling. That allows that virtual patching to happen without the burden being placed on the IT teams to patch the information systems underneath. That's your
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Federico, I need your 2 cents on defense and protection.
Yeah. Well, 2 cents on defense. What we observed, and this is actually included in our latest report on defense and dual-use technologies, is that compared to the 90s where military technologies were moving towards the civilian use, like internet, for example, currently we are seeing the opposite, that more and more commercial technologies are translated into military applications. And unfortunately, at European level, the market is so fragmented that this transferring is not happening fast enough in a way. So we could do way more if we look at what we have on the commercial side and apply that to defense. And it's crucial to do that because unfortunately we live in difficult times, and the war is not only on the field but is more and more on the cyber side. So these are my 2 cents. And if I can add a third one, is also going back to what I said before, we need also to work on the demand side to allow governments especially to work more and more with startups, because we see in our ecosystem, for example, many startups were able to pivot much faster from commercial to military, but then they struggle when it comes to accessing the long procurement cycles of public authorities, and we cannot afford to do that in the current times. So this was the 3rd cent. Thank you.
And your 3rd cent leads me to Yiannis, since you touch upon this very important issue of public-private cooperation, the cooperation with startups, although he's representing a national cybersecurity authority. He's our governmental independent partner in our discussion. So Yiannis, your comments about the defense, security and protection level.
I think comparing anything to the 90s is going to lead to, probably thinking of the current state as being all very doom and gloom. Different world, different problems there, even though I agree with Federico on the topic that there needs to be a much closer public-private partnership. The private sector is moving at tremendous speeds. The public sector has the most vulnerabilities in the ecosystem. There is a rigid set of paperworks that need to be transformed. So the cyber game is no longer one about technology, it's about how to constructively hack a system that was not designed to cater for services involving finding vulnerabilities and patching them at the era of AI. Okay, you might say, that's all good, right? But how do we deal with that? How do we deal with the new shock? And I'm going to go back to 2 comments that were made by the colleagues next to me, left and right. So, first of all, in this new shock of cybersecurity, this new face of cybersecurity, embrace the shock, right? It's a great time to be a defender. I was helping out. I still type things on the keyboard every now and then, and it doesn't involve email, to the threat of the technical teams. And I was helping out with a penetration testing activity, and we needed some payloads because there was a file upload functionality that Richard mentioned that was API-based. Something that would have taken me, very rusty on the keyboard these days when it comes to technical things. It would have taken me a day and a half, with a couple of LLMs. It took less than 20 minutes to generate. So great time to embrace cybersecurity. You mentioned, Aki, Meeus, and I just want to touch on that a little bit. So we're in Delphi, and cybersecurity tends to be a little bit of an oracle when it comes to predicting next trends. Within the closed circles of red teaming and blue teaming, we had known and used for a number of years products, tools, services like Meeus. It could have been plugins that helped out navigate different things, or specific large language models that analyzed a million lines of logs and just gave you the ones to go and look at manually, right? So when Meeus came around and it became public knowledge, it was just a level up on something that was already known. We do use AI and have been using AI for a number of years. How else can you cater for the cyber threat intelligence reports that you receive in the millions? So to avoid the digression, if the strategy is embrace the shock and be part of cybersecurity, you now have an opportunity, which is through cybersecurity in the era of AI, you can actually ask the hardest questions for your organization and get answers back. Answers that previously would take you a long time through activities, penetration testing, and so on. And I think that is going to be one of the characteristics that new leaders are going to be required to embrace, independent of cybersecurity. If you're doing business and you're not talking about how you are enabling cybersecurity with AI to make your organization better, you're probably going to have a very short time in a leadership position in years to come.
Thank you, Yiannis. Next time I will ask you about cyber patriotism in order to connect the dots with the defender. Marina, I will try to provoke the shock a little bit. Are we preparing our organizations, our policies, our strategies for the right threats or for the wrong threats?
That's a great question, Akis, and I think it's important to highlight that we're all talking about being AI first. In the European context, we have Ms. von der Leyen saying Europe has to be AI first. In the United States, we have the Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War, rather, talking about being AI first, and we all want to be AI first, looking at it from a defense perspective. But in reality, that means that we have to ensure our leaders can actually speak AI, and they need the AI fluency to operationalize AI and be AI first. So to answer your question, policy typically grows linearly, and AI, in this case, technology, and in this case, AI, grows exponentially. So there's always this asymmetry between policy falling behind and the technology racing ahead. So our responsibility is to train leaders to embrace that. And building on what Yiannis said, it's critical for leaders to actually think about AI not as a technology capability that they need to offload to the IT department, but they have to really focus on AI as a decision advantage, and they have to gain the AI fluency foundational fundamentals so that they can assess the risk that AI brings into their organization and embrace all the cyber expertise that my colleagues here bring and bake that into the organization, but also make sure that they're assessing the readiness of their organization. So it starts with leadership, and I think in an earlier session, somebody said that AI is not about technology, and I agree, AI is about people first, just like with every technology. So how do we prepare our leaders and subsequently their teams, they have the responsibility to lead by example and train their teams to be AI first. So that's why at the Center for Frontier AI Security, we have actually created two programs. One is for defense, AI leadership for defense, and the other is AI leadership for executives. So what we're doing is helping leaders build their AI fluency and start thinking about how to bake in AI risk and readiness into their processes so that they can gain the decision advantage we discussed earlier and drive to interoperability versus just going through the motions of another technology. This is probably the most transformational technological change in our lifetime, the incorporation of AI. And I think and believe that cybersecurity has always been critical, but now its role has magnified by a significant amount. Cybersecurity is foundational and vital to national security because we have to protect not only the APIs, but also the AI model weights. The weights are actually the safe, where, think of it as the treasury, where the LLM model specifics are housed. And so if your model weight is compromised, then your whole model is compromised. And in this era of AI race, and I think Federico mentioned about the cyber war, there is an AI race that's been going on for more than 3 years now, and that's the real war that's happening between two big countries. I'm not going to name them, but it's critical that we focus on empowering and equipping leaders to really, really embrace AI risk and opportunity, and the differentiator there is readiness, and of course make sure that cyber continues to be the cornerstone of AI security. Thank you, Akis. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Marina. And our last round to anticipate the future of cybersecurity and digital defense. Richard?
Yeah, I think when we sort of looking at the challenges around how AI is being used, I think that one of the things that makes it quite interesting, because at Akamai we see, I see something in the region of like 1 billion attacks every single day. And whether that volume is increasing due to AI or not is an interesting case. But one of the things I think is brought out is that AI is leading to what's called the democratization of the ability to do attacks. So what does that mean? So if we look back a few years ago, if you wanted to do a reconnaissance of an organization that you wanted to attack, you needed to do a lot of open source intelligence. You need to spend hours or days researching everything about that business, how they operate. You don't need to do that now. AI can do that for you. If you knew that there was a vulnerability and you wanted to build an exploit for it, you had to have years of coding experience to be able to go and write that individual exploit and then figure out how to write a really good phishing email to get it inside the organization so that you can actually have that exploit executed. Well, AI will write that exploit for you. AI will write the phishing email for you. You no longer need those years of experience to be able to do that. And as Yiannis was saying, he was able to pull up a payload in 20 minutes. It would have taken hours before. Now, for the attackers, it's lowered that barrier to entry. You don't need to have years of experience in how to build attacks. Now, any cyber criminal can figure out, leverage AI to be able to generate that. And I think that's the biggest concern now, is it's not necessarily going to increase the complexity of the attacks, but it's more going to increase the volume and the pace of the attacks, because more organizations are going to be able to leverage that skill set and be able to push that through that democratization of the attacks.
Thank you, Richard.
you.
Yiannis, your horizon scanning?
Look, the future is bright. The opportunity is there. The big fear that cybersecurity was going to be sidelined and become a compliance topic, I think has been answered. We need compliance. We need to build above and beyond compliance. It's a fast-moving field. If I look at what people in my team, your teams, doing cybersecurity, if I look at their career in 5 years from now, it's going to be hard. You know, you're going to have to know data analytics. You're going to have to know and train models on synthetic data prior to an engagement. And also, let's face it, we were having this discussion yesterday with some of the panelists. The open data available to train models on the internet is not there anymore. It's done, right? So different data sets that are going to become of big value include data from Southeast Europe. So I would say I would love to be in cybersecurity 5 years from now. I know that if I was to lift any one of us right now and teleport us to 5 years from now, we wouldn't be able to hold a keyboard or attend a meeting. The rules of the game would have changed drastically. And it's basically coming down to the last 3 transformations that we saw in cybersecurity. The first one was around data leaving our organization walls and getting on our phones. The second one was cloud related. And now we're dealing with this big hoo-ha of AI. So I think the solution ties back to the human development aspects, the roles, the capabilities. It involves very little in and around the specifics of technicalities. It's more about learning how to learn, theory of knowledge, philosophical topics perhaps. But overall, the future is bright because things that we would not be able to do in the past, we now can do at a blink of an eye.
Thank you, Yiannis. Federico, your 2 cents on the near future?
Yeah, 2 cents. One, these are more reflections that I like you to take with you and maybe we can discuss afterwards. The first one is that we need a better alignment of supply and demand, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. When we look at AI, in a way, I fully agree that AI needs to be first and cybersecurity is the foundation. But while it's rather easy to convince the demand side that AI is needed, cybersecurity is always an afterthought because it's an investment and you don't see immediately the gain until you get attacked and you see that maybe it was better to invest. So I believe that all of us, being operating at the intersection between science, policy and industry, have the responsibility to make sure that these two worlds are talking to each other. Otherwise, there will always be a disconnect. And the second one is that we should use more AI to support cybersecurity. If you noticed, it was said before by Richard, we are exposed to a number of attacks in our daily lives, scams, phishing, phone calls, generated through AI very quickly by people that have no clue how to do it or had no clue and now can do it. But we don't use enough those tools to protect ourselves. We are still victim of these attacks. And cybersecurity is more or less the same as it used to be. Blacklist for email addresses and a few algorithms that are trying to protect us. But we could do more. So my call to my colleagues is also let's work together to make sure that AI is not only, let's say, the technology that makes us more efficient, more effective, but let's also use it to support cybersecurity. And I think the two have to support each other, and that's the only way to be successful. And as Yiannis said, I'm also very optimistic about the future, and I would love to be in cybersecurity in 5 years from now. I think it's very exciting what we're going to see. Thank you.
Excellent. We like the optimistic interventions. And Marina, finally, in 2 minutes foresight exercise, is there any real AI-driven cyber crisis that we will face?
I think that depends on us. And you asked about our outlook for the future, I want to say, and I want to leave you today, everybody here, that the future is here. So everybody is concerned about our jobs. Will we have a job to AI? So I'll tell you this. You will not lose your job in AI in the next 5 years, but you will lose it to somebody who knows AI better than you. So my recommendation is to build your AI fluency. That's number one. Learn to, if you're in cyber or risk, learn to assess risk and the readiness of your organization. Those two things go together. And also focus on interoperability. So from my vantage point, I operate at the intersection of defense, AI, and organizational change. So interoperability is critical. So that's where you want people, again, as we discussed earlier, people plus processes, technologies, data, and governance to talk to each other. And that's where the ecosystem has to come together. So industry, academia, think tanks, and of course government, policymakers need to work together to build a standards framework that focuses on national security first. Because right now we don't have that. And when I look at the risks and cyber attacks that are actually conducted by AI. Recently, there was an Anthropic attack that was highlighted by Anthropic in September that was conducted 90% by AI. So AI is conducting attacks on AI. There was only 10% human element in that cyber attack that China actually conducted against Anthropic. So we have to be vigilant, we have to learn AI, we have to build our AI fluency, focus on decision advantage, because the future is here, and we have to connect together so that we can drive interoperability and drive the European policy vision of autonomy and sovereignty. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Akis. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Richard, one final word to keep with us on cybersecurity and digital defense.
I think that, trying to say it in one word, it's not as scary as I think the news and the hype will have you believe. I think, as my colleagues have said, that AI is going to be a massive impact in terms of defense. Most organizations are already using it to look at their logs, to speed up their telemetry, to speed up their understanding of their attack surfaces. So I think if we can effectively use AI in our terms of our defense, we are going to be in a very strong position to defend ourselves against the attackers. But it does need cooperation between various organizations, both public and private. But I think that with that, we will be able to build up our defenses sufficiently.
Thank you very much. And with this, thank you very much all of you for your participation to this very interesting panel. My one sentence is that we are a kind of practical, cooperative ecosystem for cybersecurity, this panel. And thank you for this very interesting discussion and for keeping the time and giving the opportunity for further discussions. Thank you very much.